I walked into the party with Madison on my arm, tall, elegant, not mine, but exactly the woman I needed tonight. Heads turned. Conversations stuttered. Glasses paused halfway to lips. And then I saw her, Ashley, my wife. Her fake laugh cut off mid-breath when she saw me. But it wasn't me she was staring at. It was Madison, the wife of her secret boyfriend. Ashley's face went pale, like someone yanked the soul out of her. And I smiled. I didn't say a word. Just stood there, let the silence scream for me. She tried to step forward, but her heels caught in the rug, and she stumbled like a guilty child caught mid-lie. I'd waited a long time for this moment, longer than I even realized. The moment I finally stopped pretending. But I guess I should tell you how we got here. Ashley and I had been married for 6 years. 6 years of loyalty, of building, of doing everything right. My name's Ethan, by the way. I work in logistics, boring as hell, but it paid for the house, the cars, the beach vacations. Ashley kept Instagramming like her life was perfect. But I started noticing changes. She stopped looking at me during dinner. Started dressing like she was heading to Vegas when she was just grabbing groceries. Her phone never left her hand, even when she slept. The girl who once begged me to stay in bed 5 more minutes now flinched when I touched her shoulder. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't exciting enough. Maybe I got too comfortable. Maybe my hairline retreating was a turn-off. But then I started watching. Not her. Him. Tyler Brooks. Mr. Marketing Agency. Mid-30s, single dad vibes. Too much cologne, and always around Ashley. First at company mixers, then brunches, then somehow his name kept showing up in casual stories. Too casual. Too frequent. And every time she mentioned him, she smiled like her lips couldn't help it. I did what any sane man with a hunch and a need for the truth would do. I followed her. Yeah, I tailed my own wife. GPS tracking. iCloud syncing. One weekend, she said she was at a girls' wellness retreat. Cute. Real original. I watched from across the street as she stepped into Tyler's black Audi in yoga pants and no makeup. The kind of raw, real look she used to give me in our first year of marriage. They didn't go to a retreat. They went to a hotel in Midtown. I watched them check in together like they'd done it 100 times before. Her smile wasn't nervous. It was relaxed. Like cheating on me was just another line on her to-do list. I sat in my car for 3 hours. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just stared at the parking meter ticking down like it was mocking me. I wanted to storm in there. Break down the door. But instead, I took pictures. A whole collection. And then I drove home and stared at our wedding photo on the wall. Her in white. Me in blissful ignorance. The next day, I didn't confront her. No, I did something colder. I found Madison Brooks, Tyler's wife. Turns out the guy who was blowing up my wife's body with text emojis and secret hotel getaways also had a wife and 2 kids at home. Figures. These kinds of guys always do. I met Madison for coffee. Showed her the photos. She didn't cry either. She just looked relieved. I knew it, she whispered. I knew it, but I needed to see it. Then we planned. Not revenge. No, revelation. 2 weeks later was Ashley's company's annual gala. Formal attire, open bar, fake smiles, the kind of place Ashley shined. I got 2 invites. Madison agreed instantly. She even wore red, just to twist the blade. And now, we were standing in the middle of that ballroom, every eye on us. Ashley's voice cracked as she said, "Ethan, what the hell is this?" "This?" I said, grinning. "This is your lover's wife. Madison, meet Ashley. You've shared the same man, apparently." You could hear someone drop a fork. It felt like the music itself shut off. Ashley stuttered. "You're insane. You have no idea what you're talking about. Room 312, Midtown Hilton. 3 Saturdays ago. You wore the green dress I got you for your birthday. He ordered champagne. You took your rings off in the elevator. I know everything, Ashley." She looked at Madison, whose calm stare was like fire behind glass. And then Ashley snapped. "You think you're so clever, Ethan? You're pathetic. This is why I needed something real. You're a routine. A chore. You think this little stunt makes you a man? No, it just proves how boring you are." That was the first moment I felt it. Not rage, not heartbreak. Just clarity. I turned to Madison. "Ready for that drink?" She nodded, looping her arm through mine. And we walked away. Ashley just stood there, speechless, still wearing that green dress. The one I gave her when I thought love meant something. We left that ballroom like it was the final scene of a movie, but the real story was just beginning. Madison and I didn't say much on the way to the rooftop bar we'd planned for after. There was something quiet between us. Not attraction, not yet, but a shared bruise, raw and deep. We both knew what it felt like to be lied to by someone we gave everything to. That silence. It was louder than any scream Ashley ever threw at me. We sat down under the city lights, drinks in hand. Madison broke the silence first. How long did you know? Long enough to not feel sorry anymore, I said, staring into the bourbon glass like it held answers. You? She nodded. I used to lie awake wondering if it was just in my head. Turns out, gaslighting feels like drowning in plain sight. She wasn't weak. That's what surprised me. Madison had the kind of backbone that didn't crack under betrayal. She didn't cry. She calculated. And I respected the hell out of that. That night, I didn't go home. Ashley sent 38 messages. I counted. The first few were rage-fueled. How dare you embarrass me? You just ruined my career. Then came desperation. Can we just talk? It's not what you think. And finally, silence. The kind of silence that's less about peace and more about brewing storms. I returned the next morning to a kitchen that smelled like apology pancakes. Her specialty when she knew she'd gone too far. She stood there in a robe, trying to act casual, like the woman I humiliated last night wasn't her. Like I didn't just peel her mask off in front of her colleagues and her boss and half the damn city. I messed up, she said. I didn't answer. I just walked past her and poured myself coffee. She kept talking. I didn't mean for it to happen. Tyler and I, he was just there. You don't listen to me anymore. You don't make me feel alive. She was unbelievable. You felt alive in a hotel room while I was planning our anniversary trip? I said, turning to her slowly. You felt alive lying to my face every morning while you put on that fake, I love you smile. Her eyes narrowed. Maybe if you'd paid more attention, I wouldn't have needed to go somewhere else. Boom. There it was. The line all cheaters eventually crawl toward. Blame. Blame the person they betrayed for making them do it. You cheated, Ashley. Not because I'm not enough, but because you are empty. She laughed. Actually laughed. Don't get so dramatic. It was just a few nights. It wasn't serious. Not serious. Not serious. The words rang in my head like sirens. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I didn't. Instead, I walked upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. What are you doing? She asked. Something serious. She followed me, trying to pull my arm back. Don't be stupid, Ethan. You're overreacting. People get past this kind of thing all the time. No, I said. People survive accidents. This was a hit job. You aimed for my heart and smiled while pulling the trigger. She stopped. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd crack. Maybe the guilt would finally melt that icy shell of hers. Instead, she scoffed. Fine. Run away. Just know I'm not going to sit around crying like some little girl. Good, I said. Because I'm not coming back. And I didn't. I stayed in a cheap Airbnb for a week, trying to feel human again. Trying to eat without throwing up. Trying to sleep without seeing her face. But pain like that, it seeps in. It rewrites your memories. Suddenly, every I love you she ever whispered sounded like a joke. Madison checked on me once. Sent me a message. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I get it. And strangely, I didn't want to talk. Not just to her, but to someone who didn't try to twist my hurt into an accusation. That weekend, we met again. This time not as co-survivors, but as two people trying to breathe again. You look better, she said. Still feel like I got hit by a truck. I get it. Every room in my house feels haunted. I looked at her, really looked. She was beautiful, sure. But more than that, she was real. And I needed real. We stayed at that diner till midnight. Just two people, covered in scars, trying to figure out what came next. Ashley. She kept texting, but I had already stopped reading. Madison and I didn't plan to see each other again that soon. But grief has a way of gluing broken people together. One night turned into two, then a week. And before I knew it, we were talking daily. Not romantically, not yet. It was deeper than that. It was survival. It was sitting across from someone who didn't pity you, didn't try to fix you, just got you. Meanwhile, Ashley was unraveling. I heard through mutual friends that she was spinning stories, claiming I set her up, made a public scene for drama, that I always had trust issues. Classic projection. When she realized no one was buying it, she went nuclear. She showed up at my Airbnb. I had just gotten back from a walk, earbuds in, head clear for once. And there she was, leaning against the door like a rejected soap opera villain. Tight dress. Makeup too perfect, like she thought she could seduce her way out of betrayal. "Ethan," she said, smiling like nothing had happened. "Can we talk like adults?" I didn't move. "You're on private property. Get to the point." She huffed. "You're really gonna play the victim now?" I laughed. I actually laughed. "Victim? Ashley, I caught you cheating. On video. You're lucky all I did was walk away." Her eyes flashed. "You're blowing everything out of proportion. You've been sleeping with Tyler for months." She crossed her arms. "You don't understand. He listened to me. He made me feel seen. So you let him bury his face in your lap." "Got it." Her hand shot up. Slap. Week 1, too. More insult than pain. "You used to be kind," she said through clenched teeth. "No, I used to be blind." That shut her up. I unlocked the door. "Don't come here again. You're not welcome. I'll tell everyone you abused me," she said suddenly, voice cold, almost gleeful. "See how fast your precious reputation crumbles." That's when I knew. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was dangerous. I didn't respond. I simply shut the door in her face and called my lawyer. That was the last time I ever saw Ashley in person. But it wasn't over. 3 days later, I got served. Divorce papers from her. She wanted to make it official. Beat me to the punch. Claimed emotional abandonment. Can you believe that? What's worse, she wanted alimony. Alimony. From me. After everything. I met with my lawyer, laid everything on the table. The photos, messages, her threats, even the recording from the night she came to the Airbnb. He listened, nodding slowly. "She's bold," he said. "She's delusional." "She's both," he agreed. "But you've got more than enough to destroy her case." So we fought back. Meanwhile, Madison was dealing with her own circus. Tyler had moved out, then came crawling back when he realized his mistress was now toxic waste. Madison didn't even flinch. She served him with divorce papers so fast, he probably got whiplash. We joked about it once, how both our exes had tried to ruin us and ended up setting us free. I still didn't know what to do with the feelings crawling around inside me. One minute, I wanted revenge. The next, I just wanted to forget Ashley ever existed. But you don't just erase 6 years. You feel every wound, every lie. And then there was Madison. She never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. But her presence became a steady beat in the chaos. Safe, honest, and so goddamn rare. One night, we ended up back at that same rooftop bar. The one where we first toasted to destruction. "You ever think about what comes after all this?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said, "but I don't think I'm ready for what comes next." She smiled softly. "You don't have to be. Just don't get stuck where you are." I looked at her, and for the first time since Ashley's betrayal, I didn't feel like I was drowning. There was still a long road ahead. Court battles, emotional scars, nightmares that woke me up gasping. But that night, something shifted. I realized I didn't want Ashley back. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. Madison raised her glass. To freedom. I clinked mine against hers. To truth. And for the first time in a long, long time, I slept without rage in my chest. The court date came faster than I expected. Ashley walked in like it was a red carpet event. High heels, fake crocodile tears, and a blouse that screamed manipulation disguised as vulnerability. She kept glancing over at me, probably expecting me to crack, to look sad, to give her some kind of emotional reaction she could weaponize. But I didn't flinch. My lawyer laid everything out methodically. The hotel bills, the photos, the messages where she called me a boring excuse for a husband while coordinating meetups with Tyler. The voice recording of her threatening to accuse me of abuse. The judge didn't blink twice before slicing her lies to shreds. Ashley tried to cry on cue. It was pitiful. At one point she even said, "I just wanted to feel loved again." The judge raised an eyebrow and asked, "And your method for that was adultery?" She couldn't answer. She just crumbled under her own mess. It wasn't just a legal win. It was the first time someone other than me looked her in the eye and said, "You don't get to play the victim when you caused the fire." She got nothing. No alimony. No house. Just the same freedom she used to destroy our marriage. Except now, it wasn't hers by choice. It was forced. Outside the courtroom, she approached me, trying to muster something between seduction and shame. It didn't land. "Ethan, we don't have to end this with hate," she said, voice softer than it had been in months. I stared at her. "This didn't end with hate, Ashley. It started with your betrayal. I'm just the guy who stopped lying to himself. She looked hollow, like she hadn't expected to lose everything. That's when she played her last card. I'm pregnant. The words hit like a bomb. My lawyer's hand clenched on my arm, a silent warning to stay calm. I didn't blink, didn't move. Congratulations, I said. Tyler must be thrilled. She opened her mouth to respond, but I was already walking away. I don't know if it was true. Honestly, I didn't care. She'd weaponized every emotion up to this point. This was just another bullet in a gun pointed at my peace. And I was done getting hit. That night, I met up with Madison. We didn't talk about court, or Ashley, or Tyler. We sat in silence for 20 minutes, just watching traffic pass from her balcony. Then she looked at me and said, "You're finally breathing like someone who survived." I smiled. I feel like I just woke up from a 6-year coma. She laughed, but her eyes didn't. Sometimes it takes a disaster to remember who you were before the wreck. I nodded slowly. I lost myself trying to keep her happy. And in the end, she didn't even care if I existed. Madison looked at me for a long time. "You were never invisible, Ethan. You were just with someone who only saw reflections of herself." She kissed me that night. Soft, careful, like someone who didn't want to steal, only offer. I didn't stop her. It wasn't about filling a void. It was about recognizing someone who bled the same color. The next few weeks blurred. No more court dates. No more panic attacks when my phone buzzed. I started running again. Picked up painting like I used to in college. Reconnected with my brother, who'd stopped calling because every time he did, Ashley would guilt-trip me about not being present. One afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. "You were right. Goodbye." It was from Tyler. I showed Madison. She shrugged. He got what he deserved. I deleted the message without replying. By the end of that month, my new apartment felt like a home. Madison visited often. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes silence. But it always felt right. And yet, I never forgot what Ashley did. Not because I was still angry, but because I needed the scar. I needed the reminder of who I became when I let someone else define my worth. There's no revenge greater than rebuilding a life someone tried to destroy and making it better than ever. Weeks turned into months. The chaos that once ruled every hour of my day was gone, replaced by something strange and unfamiliar: peace. The kind of peace that feels fragile at first, like it might shatter if you move too quickly. I was learning how to exist again without being someone's emotional punching bag, without walking on eggshells, without wondering if the woman sleeping beside me was dreaming about another man. Madison and I were still undefined. We didn't rush it. There was something pure in the way we existed beside each other. Sometimes she'd fall asleep on my couch after a movie, and I'd just sit there, watching the quiet rise and fall of her breathing, thinking, so this is what safety feels like. But life doesn't let you heal without testing your scars. It started with a call from a blocked number. I let it ring. It rang again, and again. I picked up the 5th time. "Ethan," Ashley's voice said, low and broken. "I need to see you." I didn't answer. "Please," she whispered. "It's not about us. It's about something else." I almost hung up, but there was something in her voice I hadn't heard before. Not manipulation, not guilt, something raw. I agreed to meet her in a public place. Neutral ground. She showed up looking nothing like herself. No makeup, hoodie, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept in days. She sat down, looked at me with those same eyes I used to get lost in, but now they just looked empty. "I lost the baby," she said flatly. I said nothing. "It wasn't even Tyler's," she added after a pause. I clenched my jaw. "Then whose was it?" She looked away. "I don't know." That sentence hit harder than I expected. Not because I cared, but because it was a final confirmation of how far gone she really was. My wife, my partner, had no idea whose child she was carrying. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I don't have anyone left," she whispered. And for the first time in months, I felt something for her, not love, not pity, just closure. She wasn't the villain I built up in my head. She was worse. She was hollow. The kind of person who could walk into someone's life, drink every ounce of goodness, and still walk away thirsty. "I'm not the man you call anymore, Ashley." She nodded, tears brimming. "I know. I just needed to say it to someone." I stood up, then say it to a mirror. "You're the only one left who believes your stories." I walked away and didn't look back. And for once, I didn't carry any of it with me. That night, I told Madison everything. Every word. Every moment. "You okay?" she asked, touching my hand. I think I am, I said, surprised at how true it felt. Madison leaned back, exhaling. You're stronger than most people would be. I shook my head. I'm just tired of bleeding for someone who never tried to stop the cut. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said it. Do you think you're ready? For what? For something real. With me. I looked at her. Really looked. This woman, who walked through hell beside me. Who didn't demand anything from me. Who gave without asking. Who waited, patiently, while I scraped myself back together. I nodded. Yeah, I think I am. She smiled. Not the kind Ashley used to fake for social media. A real one. Soft. Earned. We didn't rush. We didn't label it. We just were. And as I laid next to her that night, her head on my chest, her breath steady and calm, I realized, sometimes you don't need revenge. You don't need to win. You just need to live. The morning after Madison stayed over, I woke up before she did. The sun was just peeking through the curtains, casting lines of gold across her face. And for a second, I forgot everything. The lies, the betrayal, the courtrooms, the sting of finding out the woman I once loved was capable of gutting me with a smile. For the first time in over a year, I wasn't bracing for impact. But peace is a fragile thing. It doesn't knock when it leaves, it just disappears. That afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo, blurry, clearly taken in a hurry. It was of me and Madison walking together, her hand on my arm. The caption underneath said, "Does she know who you really are?" No name. No follow-up. I stared at it for 10 minutes before showing Madison. Her eyebrows knit. You think it's from Ashley? Or Tyler? We both knew what this meant. Our past wasn't done with us yet. Madison sighed. They're scrambling. Losing control. This is desperation. Yeah, I said. But I don't like being watched. The next week, the photos kept coming. Different angles. Different times. Once it was from outside my apartment. Another time from a gas station I stopped at on my way home. Always followed by some variation of, let's not pretend you're innocent. They didn't scare me, not in the physical sense. But it was like being dragged back into a nightmare I had finally escaped. Like finding a bloodstain under a rug months after the murder. Proof that the past wasn't buried. Just dormant. Madison handled it better than I did. She didn't flinch. You know, they're terrified we moved on, she said one night. Ashley needs to believe she still lives in your head. She doesn't. Then don't let her back in. Not even like this. The next day, I filed a police report. They said it was probably harassment, low risk, but they'd look into it. Madison installed cameras outside her place, and I did the same. And for a while, things went quiet. Until the envelope showed up. No return address. Just my name in black ink. Inside, a printed email exchange. Between Ashley and Tyler. It was dated from 4 months before I found out. Back when I was still bringing her breakfast in bed and massaging her feet after work. The emails were disgusting. Not just physically, but emotionally. Ashley didn't just betray me with her body. She tore me apart in her words. He's so predictable. I fake it every time. I'm only with him until I know you're ready to leave Madison. That last one. That one shattered something inside me all over again. Because it confirmed what I had only suspected in shadows. I was never a husband to her. I was a placeholder. A convenience. A fool in the waiting room while she took auditions in secret. I didn't show Madison. Not yet. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I needed to sit with it alone. To feel the full weight of how disposable I'd been to someone I gave everything to. I went for a drive that night. Windows down. No music. Just the sound of the wind and my own heartbeat. I ended up parked outside the first apartment Ashley and I shared. We were 23. Poor. Happy. Or at least I thought so. I remembered the night we moved in. We ate cheap pizza on the floor. She danced in her socks. I told her I'd love her forever. And she said, I know. You're the only safe thing in my life. I stared at that building for a long time. Then I turned the car around and went home. Madison was sitting on the couch, reading. She looked up, worried. Everything okay? I sat beside her, handed her the envelope. She read it all. Slowly. Carefully. Then closed her eyes. They were planning a whole future behind our backs, she said. Yeah. I feel stupid. You're not. She exhaled sharply. Let's burn it. What? The envelope. The emails. Everything. We went out to the patio, grabbed a lighter and an old metal tray. One by one, she fed the pages to the flame. The paper curled and blackened and vanished into smoke. We didn't speak. We didn't cry. We watched it die, and when the last ember faded, she turned to me and said, "Now we start over. Clean." And I believed her. Starting over sounds clean in theory, but in reality, it's messy. Healing isn't a straight line, it's jagged. It loops, it drags you back just when you think you've made it out. There were nights I still woke up with a jolt, expecting Ashley to be next to me, checking her phone under the covers. And sometimes I'd hear Madison in the kitchen and my chest would tighten with a fear I couldn't explain, like the past might be cooking breakfast too. But the difference now? Madison stayed. And not out of guilt, or strategy, or manipulation. She stayed because she chose to. Every day, no games, no lies. One morning, as we were drinking coffee on my tiny balcony, Madison turned to me and said, "You ever think about what forgiveness really is?" Pain in slow motion, I answered without thinking. She smiled. Maybe. Or maybe it's choosing not to let someone's filth stain your peace. I like that better. Then the unexpected happened. Tyler showed up at my doorstep. I opened the door and saw him standing there in a wrinkled dress shirt, looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. His eyes were sunken, his lips dry, and the smug arrogance he always wore like cologne, gone. "Ethan," he said, voice hoarse. "I need a minute." "You've got 15 seconds, I said. He rubbed the back of his neck. I screwed everything up. Correct. I lost Madison. I lost my job. Ashley won't even talk to me anymore. I thought maybe we could talk. I stared at him like he had grown a second head. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You cheated on your wife with mine. Helped destroy 2 families. And now you want me to help you feel better?" He looked like he might cry. I wasn't sure if it was real, or if this guy was just built to collapse when no one's clapping for him. "I'm not here to make peace," I said. "But I will say this, you're not sorry. You're just alone. And that's not the same thing." He didn't argue. I closed the door. Madison was standing down the hall, arms crossed. "He's lucky you didn't punch him." "I'm too tired for punches." We stood there in silence. Then Madison said something I hadn't expected. "I'm thinking of selling the house." "Yeah?" I asked. "I want a new chapter too. And if we're going to write it together, maybe we don't do it surrounded by old ghosts." The words hit me square in the chest. She wasn't just healing, she was moving forward. For real. And she was asking me if I was ready to do it with her. "I'll start packing," I said. It took a month to move. We didn't rush. We sorted everything. Gave away what didn't matter. Took only what felt right. The first night in our new place, smaller, cozier, but clean, we ordered takeout and sat on the floor like kids. "This is where we stop bleeding," she said, mouth full of lo mein. "This is where we start," I corrected. We clinked soda cans. No champagne. Just real life. And still, I thought about Ashley sometimes. Not with longing, but like a burned scar. You don't stare at it all day, but you know it's there. You remember the fire. And you don't go near that stove again. A week later, I got a letter. Handwritten. From Ashley. I almost tossed it in the trash. But curiosity won. It was short. "Ethan, I see now that I broke something in you I didn't understand, and I can't take it back. I don't want anything from you. I just hope you find someone who never makes you feel like you're second place." Hey. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer I rarely open. I wasn't going to frame it. I wasn't going to burn it. Just acknowledge it. Like the final scene in a movie I no longer needed to watch again. Madison walked in, barefoot, hair up, her presence already more home than any place I'd lived. "You okay?" she asked. "I am now." And for the first time in years, I meant it without hesitation. The sun was setting behind the new apartment, casting soft orange light across the hardwood floor. Madison stood by the window, sipping tea, humming something under her breath. I watched her for a moment. The curve of her back, the loose way she stood, like someone who wasn't carrying secrets. I never realized how much silence could hurt until I finally tasted the kind that heals. The storm was over. Ashley hadn't reached out since the letter. Tyler faded into the background too. No more emails, no more messages, no more camera clicks in the shadows. It was like the universe had finally turned the page, and I didn't need to reread the last chapter ever again. One night, I sat alone and pulled out an old photo. Me and Ashley, laughing on a pier somewhere in Florida. I barely recognized the man I used to be. He looked soft, blind, willing to bend himself backward to keep someone who was already halfway out the door. I didn't hate him. I just felt sorry for him. I put the photo back in the box and closed it for good. Madison and I never rushed labels. We weren't interested in calling it something to make it easier to explain. What we had didn't need a category. It was just solid, quiet, real. A connection built not on fairy tales, but on survival, truth, and the unspoken agreement that there would be no more pretending. One evening, as we walked hand in hand through a Sunday market, she stopped at a stall and pointed to a handmade wooden sign. It read, "Sometimes the person who saves you is just someone who didn't walk away." She looked at me and said, "That's you." I shook my head. "That's us." And it was. I used to think betrayal would define me, that the pain would harden into something permanent. But I was wrong. It wasn't Ashley's lies that shaped my future. It was the moment I finally stopped trying to fix a sinking ship and learned how to swim for shore. To any man reading this, if you're waking up in a relationship where your gut twists more than your heart beats, if you're explaining away red flags like they're confetti, if you feel like you're giving oxygen to someone who only breathes you in when it's convenient, walk away. Not for revenge, for your freedom. And maybe, just maybe, one day you'll meet someone who won't need saving, but will hold your hand while you save yourself. I did, and that made all the difference.